He's the boogeyman of the 155-pound division, the informed Dagestani destroyer who will take on Charles Oliveira for the lightweight belt at UFC 280 in Abu Dhabi. But how much do you actually know about Islam Makhachev? Here are 10 things that may surprise you about this lightweight title challenger. Extracurricular activities. Islam might have a lot on his mind as an elite member of the UFC lightweight top 5, but that doesn't mean he doesn't know how to kick back and relax. Or, well, if riding a motorcycle through treacherous terrain is your idea of relaxing. When he's not preparing for world domination, Makhachev loves nothing more than mountain biking. Khabib Nurmagomedov was actually the one to encourage him to give it a shot, purchasing him a bike as a present. Jump forward a few years, and Nurmagomedov has made it clear that he now sees mountain biking as a potential risk to his protege's fighting future, but that doesn't seem to bother Islam quite as much. Strike differential. Islam Makhachev has one of those overbearing styles of wrestling and grappling that makes it damn near impossible for his opponents to have success. And while his 10-fight win streak speaks volumes about his dominance, his striking absorption rate of 0.84 strikes per minute really does tell you just how hard it is to beat this guy. This stat makes Islam by far the least hit fighter in UFC history. For context, the number 2 ranked fighter, Pete Spratt, absorbed 1.02 strikes per minute, which is not even close to Islam's numbers. Will he be able to keep these pristine numbers after fighting Charles? Who knows? But if he can, this guy is headed for some all-time great statistics. Lightweights beware. Whenever a fighter starts to make their rise through the ranks, it's only natural to expect that their coaches are going to do everything in their power to promote them. But according to some sources who are quite close to Makhachev and Team Khabib as a whole, the world has seen nothing yet. First of all, Javier Mendez, who is the longtime coach of this lightweight title contender, says that Islam is a much better striker than Khabib ever was. Okay, nothing too crazy there. But ahead of his clash with Charles Oliveira, his manager, Ali Abdelaziz, who is of course very good friends with the Nurmagomedovs, made it clear that Islam Makhachev is, and has always been, the better fighter of the two. Now, whether he actually means it or not remains to be seen, but judging by his recent performances, it's pretty clear that there are levels to Makhachev's game that we still haven't seen. Only time will tell, I suppose. Hype train derailed? If you're new to this sport or weren't watching as closely back in 2015, you might not be aware of the fact that Islam Makhachev isn't actually undefeated. On top of this, his sole loss as a pro MMA fighter actually happened in the UFC on a pay-per-view prelim. UFC 192 was the event, and Adriano Martins was his opponent. It's not like the fight was some dominant effort from Martins, but even still, before 2 minutes had gone on the clock, Martins caught Islam with a huge right hand when he started to get a little sloppy. It was a big moment for the 23-year-old Makhachev, and one that likely brought him a greater sense of maturity. This defeat would not define this young fighter. Even then, and after spending close to a year out of the cage to recuperate, he rebounded with a win over Chris Wade, beginning a streak that eventually led him to his upcoming title shot. His perfect, unbeaten record was ruined, but the important stuff happened many years after this initial hiccup. Sambo Master. Seeing a fighter from Dagestan that is recognized as a Sambo Master is nothing new. In fact, most of them seem to have incredibly strong backgrounds in the sport. But what separates Islam from the pack is that he decided to go back to his foundational combat sport while he was in the middle of his UFC run. In 2016, just as he was making his third walk to the octagon, he also managed to win a gold medal in the World Combat Sambo Championship, winning his final matchup with a score of 7-0 against Bulgarian-born Valentin Benishev. To dip back into a sport like Sambo after years spent focusing on MMA with such success is one major achievement. Sure, the two sports aren't too different, but it does speak volumes about this guy's talents. Spare no expense. Makhachev seems like a pretty humble guy, a man who is committed to letting his fighting do the talking. You're not going to see Islam rocking a $100,000 watch or driving an insanely overpriced sports car. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't know when to splash the cash. In fact, for his wedding, Islam actually rented out an entire hotel in Dagestan, reportedly filling it with thousands of guests to celebrate his big day. This wedding came just a few weeks after his dominant victory over Drew Dober, and though details are scarce, we do know that the wedding was attended by several high-profile names within the MMA world. A great year. Islam clearly didn't waste any time in building up his resume, and after going to a unanimous decision in his pro debut, he proceeded to fight 5 times in 2011, scoring a perfect 5-0 record, with 4 of those victories coming by way of finish. What's also interesting about this is that he recorded these 5 wins in 4 different MMA promotions, eventually finding a more consistent home in the Russian organization M1 Global before signing with the UFC in 2015. Efficient as they come. Though Khabib is known for his aggressive pursuit of the takedown inside the octagon, you might be surprised to know that Islam is by far and away the most efficient wrestler of the two. In fact, Makhachev is the 10th most successful takedown artist in UFC history, posting a hugely impressive completion rate of 65.8%. Nurmagomedov's own rate of success is 48%, but as we all know, that doesn't really tell the full story of his prowess. Islam's wrestling has the numbers to back it up though, and so far, very few fighters have had an answer for his approach when he grabs hold. An old enemy. Everyone knows that Islam Makhachev is a longtime friend and training partner of the legendary former lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov, and most of you will be aware that perhaps the most controversial story of Khabib's career came against the powerful wrestler Gleison Tibau, a fight that Nurmagomedov won on the scorecards. In that bout, Khabib had some real trouble scoring takedowns, and though most fans gave him the victory, there are still many people out there who think Tibau was robbed. Jump forward to Islam's own rise, and the UFC decided to set him up for a showdown against his teammate's old rival. When Makhachev vs. Tibau happened, though, it was a far more conclusive performance, and Islam took just 57 seconds to score a knockout against the former welterweight. Third time unlucky. Makhachev was likely heavily involved in Khabib Nurmagomedov's preparations for Tony Ferguson, offering a helping hand on each of the 5 occasions that the fight fell through. Some people think the bout was cursed, but either way, what's interesting here is that Islam actually had a similar problem with trying to get a fight with the former divisional champ Rafael dos Anjos. On 3 separate occasions, the UFC tried to get a fight between this rising talent and RDA to happen, but time and time again, the bout kept falling through. Sure, it wasn't the insane disappointment that Khabib vs. Ferguson was, but it's an interesting parallel, that's for sure. And that will just about do it for this video. So, who are you backing to take home the win when the Octagon doors close on October 22nd? If you made it this far, you are officially awesome. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and make sure to check out my other videos. See you guys!